So he's already a regular.
Right, Bob is, and Dana is. I read so
But I
move,
mean,
You're ready.
contacted him.
so we move
Guys ready?
Oh,
It is 6 o'clock, and we have adjourned from executive session. And at this time, we will open the city council for September 12th, 2023. And Mr. Harris will lead us in the prayer and pledge.
Would please bow with me. God of peace, we invite you to preside over this meeting. Even if we have different opinions, give us unity of spirit. Help us to listen politely to others as they share their points of view. Help us to work unified, be a team combining ideas for a great outcome. Help us to work as whole rather than individuals trying to promote their own agendas. May we have a spirit of camaraderie in this room as we work together. And I'd also like to say, dear Lord, thank you for a little bit of rain this morning, and we will welcome much, much more. In your holy and heavenly name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Mr. Cunez, you have some announcements for us.
Yes, ma'am. We have a couple of them. And I'll start with, this is not this weekend, but next weekend. We have the 12th Annual Kerrville Triathlon coming to town. Saturday and Sunday, September 23rd and 24th, various sites around town. This is not a city event, but there are a lot of city services involved, police, fire, streets, and parks. And we will be releasing a press release next week detailing some of the temporary road closures. So, want to remind citizens that we got a couple of days of kind of block traffic in certain areas, but please bear with us. This is a great event, brings a lot of tourists to town. So we look forward to it every year. It's a lot of fun. Be prepared for that. And this is still, I guess, a month and 2 days away, but start thinking about the Kerrville River Festival. It's going to be October 14th. Lead act will be Danielle Bradbury. This one's kind of special because we open the gates at 10, and at 11, I believe it's 11:50, we have an annular eclipse. So Louise Hayes Park is going to be a great place to see it, along with a whole lot of other people. So encourage everybody to come down. Looking forward to that. And those are my two announcements, but I believe that we've got one more from Shelley.
Madam Mayor and Council, it is my honor and pleasure to tell you that Keisha, our Deputy City Secretary, on September 1st, 2023, completed her certification through the state of Texas. So it's partnered with the University of North Texas, and it's basically a master's program. She completed this program in 2 years, and it can take anywhere from 5 to 10 normally. So, yeah, she did great.
Super.
We're very
Thank you.
proud of her.
As we should be. Okay, do you want to do them now or did they sign up?
I don't know if they signed up or not,
Why don't you
but
go ahead?
I asked some very outstanding citizens to come this evening, and it's hard for me to talk about it because I get choked up because it was such an emotional event. And I'm talking about Mike and Jan Paracini with Gunny's Warriors and the Field of Honor. I bought a flag this weekend for my grandfather that served in World War II. I went out there and I lost it when I saw the flag, and I bought it. So if y'all did not get a chance to go out, Kerrville, you missed out. Comfort missed out. Centerpoint missed out. Ingram missed out. I hope y'all do it again and again and again. And it was the most emotional thing that I've witnessed in a long time, and thank y'all. And to follow that up with the 9/11 ceremony yesterday morning, Chief Maloney, thank you for having your engine out and your team out there to go through that and to have the horn honk, 3 blasts when the first tower fell. But it was amazing. It was an amazing weekend. It was an amazing event. The timing couldn't have been more appropriate for what it's for and the way it started. And I just can't say thank y'all enough. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it, to participate in it, and to reach out and let me talk to you as a veteran. And like I said Saturday, as family, because y'all are family, because we all have that tight-knit United States Marine Corps title. So thank y'all.
Thank you.
In case you didn't see it, they had 500 flags out at the event center. And it was just really, really neat to see. And Jan and Mike, stand up. Oh, and we expect you to do it again next year. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for all being here. We're going to have 3 proclamations coming up here, and you're all going to be a part of that. But I also would like to introduce somebody new, but going to be somebody very important in our community and to the city council and staff. It's our new city manager who has dropped in to see us tonight, Mr. Dalton Rice. Stand up, Dalton. I don't think he's just looking us over to say whether he wants to come back or not. I think he's here for good, so. All right, we're going to start with our first proclamation. This will be.
An announcement first.
You bet, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to let the city know that at the end of this month, a company called Animal Balance, in conjunction with Kerrville Pets Alive, will be hosting a spay-neuter event, and they are going to take 3 days at the end of the month, and they're going to spay and neuter 200 community pets. We've already filled up those slots, and we've got 30 on the waiting list, which kind of shows you the need in our community. So I wanted to thank the city for co-sponsoring with a couple of other entities in helping us being able to fund that. So thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, anybody else? I'm sorry, I forgot to ask Roman or Joe?
Oh,
Okay.
just piggyback. Thank y'all for what you did, and it's my understanding there are plans to do another one next year, so we're excited about it. Thank you.
All right, those who are part of the National Recovery Month, if you will join me in front of the dais. Are you part of the National Recovery? Please, come up here and join us. Are you part of National Recovery? No. No, okay. We'll get you next. All right. Thank you all for being here tonight. We appreciate it. City of Kerrville Proclamation. Whereas the month of September is National Suicide Prevention Month, a time. Am I doing the right one? No.
Maybe not.
No. Let's see. Okay, this is the right one. Thank you. All right. Whereas through Recovery Month, we work to promote and support evidence-based treatment and recovery practices, the emergence of a strong and proud recovery community, and the dedication of service providers and citizens across our community who make recovery in all its forms possible. And whereas prevention of mental and substance use disorders works, treatment is effective, and people can and do recover in our area and around the nation. And we must encourage relatives and friends of people with mental and substance use disorders to implement preventive measures, recognize the signs of a problem, and guide those in need to appropriate treatment and recovery support services. And whereas the National Recovery Month theme, every person, every family, every community, reminds people in recovery and those who support them that no one is alone in the journey through recovery. Everyone's journey is different, but we are all in this together. Recovery Month will continue to educate others about substance use disorders and co-occurring disorders, the effectiveness of treatment and recovery services, and that recovery is possible. All of us, from celebrities and sports figures to our co-workers, neighbors, friends, and family members throughout our lives, have experienced peaks and valleys, both big and small, but with strength, support, and hope from the people we love, we are resilient. And whereas Kerrville Recovery Community Coalition invites all residents of Kerrville, Texas, to participate in National Recovery Month. Now, therefore, I, Judy Eichner, Mayor of the City of Kerrville, Texas, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2023 as Recovery Month in Kerrville, Texas, and call upon all the people of Kerrville to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies to support recovery. And I've signed it. Thank you. We have pictures now, and then we'll let them introduce themselves. Can you get us?
I think
Here,
so.
and we'll let you. This should go to Randy. No, go ahead.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. What I'd like you to do is introduce yourselves and tell us how you're involved, if you would, please.
I'm Randy Benno, Director of Peer Support for Hill Country MHTD. I'm a past member of the Kerrville Recovery Coalition for 4 years and a person with long-term recovery.
I'm Krista Lovett. This is my second time to serve on the KRCC. I feel very privileged. And I came on as a concerned citizen.
Kim Williamson, I'm also with Hill Country MHDD Centers, and I'm the newly appointed Substance Use Services Program Director. Maybe next year I'll know what I'm doing.
All right, we'll just continue now.
Hi, I'm Abby Filia, and I work at the Hill Country Council on Alcohol and Drug Awareness. I'm the new recovery coach on staff.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Terry Mabrito. I'm a project director for the San Antonio Council on Alcohol and Drug Awareness, and certainly here to support the Hill Country as well. I also coordinate a teen suicide prevention coalition.
I'm Andrea Salazar. I also work with the San Antonio Council on Alcohol and Drug Awareness and the Hill Country Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse, and also support Randy in the efforts at the KRCC.
I'm Phil Taylor, and I'm the project coordinator for San Antonio Council on Alcohol and Drug Awareness, and I office here at our local office at the Hill Country Council on Drug and Alcohol Abuse.
Okay. Do you have any activities coming up that you would want to share with in this month that you might want to share with everyone?
We just had an overdose, International Overdose Awareness
Okay.
Night.
But nothing else that we need to tell everybody about. All right. Thank you all for all that you do for our community, and we appreciate you. Please turn. you all for Okay, very good, very good.
We're in there too.
Yeah. You did. Thank you. I need help. Okay, we need those of you who are involved with the National Suicide Prevention Month proclamation. If you will join me up here, please. Some of you are coming back, I think. You're involved with this also. Come on in. Oh, there's some more, okay. Here they come. Come on in. Join us up here, if you will, please. This is great to have so many of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, City of Kerrville proclamation. Whereas the month of September is National Suicide Prevention Month, a time in which individuals, organizations, and communities around the country join their forces to amplify the message that suicide can be prevented. And whereas the past few years have presented our communities with challenges and led to transitions that, expected or unexpected, welcomed or not, can be unsettling, disorienting, and stressful. And whereas 4,191 people died from suicide in Texas in 2021, and 130 of those individuals reside in the Hill Country area, and whereas in 2021, there were 582 emergency department visits for suicide attempts among residents of the Hill Country MHDD Center's catchment area. And whereas, knowing the signs of suicide, finding the words to communicate with someone they are concerned about, and reaching out to local resources. And whereas, we know that connecting, working with, and supporting one another can help prepare us for the future. And whereas, all Texans are urged to play a role in suicide prevention and promote mental health and wellness as we strive towards zero suicides. And whereas the month of September is recognized across the United States as Suicide Prevention Month, and it provides the opportunity to educate our community about the warning signs for suicide and how to reach out and connect to those experiencing an emotional crisis. Now therefore I, Judy Eichner, Mayor of the City of Kerrville, Texas, do hereby proclaim September 2023 as Suicide Prevention Month. And I have signed this. So this is something very, very important. All right. Okay, I'd like to have you all introduce yourself and tell us what organization you're with or how you're associated.
Okay. I'm Maggie Mahoney. I'm with MHDD, and I'm the new team lead for the crisis team.
And I'm Kelly Fallis. I'm a crisis interventionist. I work underneath Maggie.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Wilmot, Director of Community Relations for Hill Country MHDD.
Hi, I'm Joan Cortez. I'm the Director of Crisis Services for Hill Country MHDD.
Hi, I'm Lisa Cisneros. I'm the Director of Clinical Services with Hill Country MHDD Centers.
Randy Benno, Director of Peer Support, Hill Country MHDD.
Hi, I'm Perrin Pierce with Kerr Clinic, Mental Health Clinic here in town, Adult Care Coordinator.
Hi, I'm Maddie Dry. I'm an Adult and Child Care Coordinator for MHDD.
I'm Diana Gutierrez. I'm the Assistant Director to the Kerr County Mental Health Center.
I'm Nicole Cox. I am the Clinic Director at MHDD.
Terry again, Sakata.
Lisa Williams. I'm a Crisis Care Coordinator with Hill Country MHDD Centers.
JD Chavez, MCOT Crisis Intervention with MHDD as well.
Hello, I'm Dana Cardwell, licensed professional counselor and LCDC with MHDD. Sounds like it's a show.
Julie Nelson, LVN, the MHDD Care Clinic.
Kim Williamson, Substance Use Program Director at Hill Country.
Rob Hines, also at Hill Country MHDD. I'm the Director of Nurses over at the Crisis Stabilization Unit.
Well, it's great to have all of you here. MHDD has played a really important part in our community, and we just appreciate all of you so very, very much. So thank you, and turn around, shake the hand of council members.
My wife said all this stuff. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
She would like to, tell me, Joan, would like to make a comment of something that I think is important.
So part of our suicide prevention crisis work, law enforcement is a big part of that, and they're obviously taxed a lot of times thin and don't have the resources as well. So, but we really couldn't do our job without them in our community, and so they really are a big part of what we do every day. So I just want to say thank you as well.
Thank you. Is this the right one? Okay. All right. I think we will have our last group now. And this is the League of Women Voters. Come on up, everybody. Don't hesitate. We want you up front. Join me up front, please.
I'm not a woman.
Come on up. Some familiar faces here, so that is cool. All right, now this is a long one, so don't go to sleep. All right, City of Kerrville proclamation. Whereas the League of Women Voters, LWV, of Texas, was founded at the St. Anthony Hotel in San Antonio on October 19, 1919, and focused its efforts on educating newly enfranchised women voters. And whereas the League of Women Voters, Hill Country, Texas, was formed as a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization in 1979 to serve citizens, voters, and residents of Kerr County and to assist in registering voters as certified volunteer deputy registrars. And whereas the LWV, Hill Country, Texas, now serves 6 Texas Hill Country counties, including Bandera, Blanco, Gillespie, Kendall, Kerr, and Llano. And whereas it is the mission of the LWV, Hill Country, Texas, to provide nonpartisan civic and voter education and materials for citizens and residents of our region. And whereas the LWV, Hill Country, Texas, received a grant from the League of Women Voters of the United States for 2022-23 to create a citizenship education and mentorship program for eligible residents seeking to become naturalized citizens of the United States of America. and the grant was renewed in 2023-24. It's great. And whereas in 2022, the LWV Hill Country, Texas partnered with the Doyle Community Center in Kerrville to provide free weekly citizenship education classes and materials. And whereas LWV Hill Country, Texas dedicated volunteer teachers and volunteer helpers have donated their time and talent to teach, mentor, and encourage the 23 students in our 2022-23 first class, and 7 students have already become citizens of the United States of America and have been registered to vote. And whereas the LWV Hill Country, Texas second class is enrolling new students now and will begin weekly citizenship classes at the Doyle Community Center on September 21st, 2023. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and council of the city of Kerrville commend the League of Women Voters, Hill Country, Texas, and the Doyle Community Center for their successful citizenship education program and wish them continued success. And I have signed it. We need you in the picture. Okay. You want without your friend? Okay, all right. I'd like to have all of you introduce yourselves. Tell us how you're affiliated. And then I think we have a couple people that would like to share a little more information with us.
Yes, we do. Just one. I'm Maggie McGee, and I was lucky enough to be involved with this program from its get-go and the first grant. And it has been a joy and a privilege and has exceeded our wildest dreams. And my maid and her husband, who are dear friends of ours, we've been to all their kids' special events, quinceañeros, everything else, have become some of our first citizens. So I'm very happy about this program.
And I'm Alicia Boyette, a volunteer citizenship instructor at the Doyle Center.
And I'm Lois Shaw. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters, and I'm the facilities manager at the Doyle Center.
Hi, I'm B.K. Gamble, and I'm the executive director at the Doyle Community Center. Hi, I'm Susanna Gibson, and I'm a volunteer facilitator for citizenship classes at the Doyle Center.
Hi, I'm Lupita Barrera, and I'm a citizenship instructor at the Doyle Center.
Hello, I'm Karen Maddox. I'm the community navigator at the Doyle Community Center.
Hi, I'm Virginia Young, and I'm an instructor in the citizenship classes.
Hi, I'm Lori Patterson. I'm also a volunteer teacher with citizenship classes at the Doyle Center.
Good evening. My name is Clifton Pfeiffer. I'm not a woman. And I'm the outreach coordinator at the Doyle Center.
Nobody knows you.
I'm Lala Flores. I am the food pantry manager at the Doyle Community Center, and I'm also a community health aide.
I'm Kathy Leroy. I'm the immediate past president of the League of Women Voters, Hill Country, Texas, and I applied for the grant that got this started.
Introduce our current president, Janice Sittleman, who needs to come up for this photo. Well, I'm from Gillespie County. Well, that's all right. But you're our leader, so you come on up here. And Alicia's just going to spend a minute to give you a brief update. Alicia said she was just a teacher. She is the lead of the program and the driving force behind our volunteer teachers. So she's being too honest.
Thank you.
Take it away.
Our free classes are held year-round at the Doyle Center, and our next session starts on Thursday, September 21st. Preparing students for U.S. citizenship is a deeply rewarding experience. Our conscientious and hard-working students brave many obstacles and challenges for a promise of freedom and opportunity. They must be lawfully admitted permanent residents for at least 5 years with no criminal convictions and must read, write, and speak basic English. They must pass a rigorous civics exam that demonstrates a clear understanding of American history and government. They must submit a comprehensive 20-page application and a $725 fee and take several trips to the San Antonio Immigration Field Office for a biometrics appointment, interview, and test. We're so grateful to the League of Women Voters, Hill Country for their sponsorship, and the Doyle Center for hosting our classes. Because of their involvement, this year we have 7 new U.S. citizens, and we've got more that are going to be naturalized. Lastly, none of this is possible without our dedicated and exceptional volunteer instructors. They deserve a lot of recognition and applause for their tireless efforts and commitment to our students. And we do have one instructor, Dr. Sandy Ewald, who recently passed away. So we'd also like to mention her as well.
Good, good. Yay.
I need to give, I'll just hand that to you and shake a hand of a council member, please. Shake a hand.
How are you, sir? Thank y'all so much. How you
Good to see you.
Good to see you. I know. How are you doing? Yeah.
Thank you.
You made it.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so
Oh, God.
Chamber of Commerce Man of the Year a couple of years ago. So
You better.
Yeah, that was really good. Very nice.
Okay.
That was perfect.
Good job.
Isn't it neat? I mean, it just, when you stop to think of the good things that are going on in our community, it's, just makes you glad to be here. And a prayerful thanks to all of them. We are blessed. Okay, we have a full agenda tonight, so are you guys ready to go?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Let's start with our visitors and Citizens Forum. We'll remind you to please be kind and courteous and respectful. And we're going to limit everybody, I'm sorry, to 2 minutes again. So, because we've got a big agenda. Shelley?
Chase Spencer and Teresa Lara, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing the first name right.
Mayor, with all due respect, I'm going to raise a point of order. That action of limiting to 2 minutes would be in violation of the City Council procedural rules for meeting. I provided a copy of the rule to everybody. It appears this has been a pattern since it started the first time, and so I wanted everybody to actually see what the rule says, and it says it may be extended. There's no provision for limiting the time.
Well, I am going to, I guess, violate this, and I'm going to leave ask them to continue to leave their comments to 2 minutes, please. Thank you, Roman.
Okay.
Yes, go to that mic, if you will, please.
Sorry, this is the first time we do this. So. Okay, my name is Teresa Lauren with Hill Country Crisis Council.
And I'm Chase Spencer, Executive Director of Mercy Gate Ministries.
We have both collaborated together to have an event for a community awareness event. It's called Cur United Against Sexual Exploitation. It's a free community event.
Can you say that again? Name it again. What is it?
Cur United Against Sexual Exploitation. It's going to be held September 19. Falls on a Tuesday, and it's going to be from 6 to 9. And this is going to be at Tybee High School at the auditorium. Unfortunately, no community in Texas is immune to sexual exploitation, abuse, and even domestic sex trafficking. While this is a difficult subject to talk about, we must have community conversations. That is why we have collaborated together to create this event, to empower the community to be vigilant, as this is the most powerful weapon in the war against sexual exploitation in all its forms. We want the community to be allies in victim recovery by knowing what to look for, how to report it, and what resources are available to help these victims get their lives back. Our ultimate goal is to eradicate this threat by proactively protecting our loved ones from falling prey to these injustices. A precious life is never for sale.
I want to honor the time that we have. So we have a home here for women who are coming out of human trafficking, sexual exploitation, and sexual trauma. And so 80% of our women we have are from right here in this community. It's hard to hear that, but it's the truth. So the other 20% are from other places. The first person who was in our home, she was trafficked on the streets of Houston for 10.5 years, and she is now our direct care staff. So it is possible for them to have a great change in life and do well. So we would just invite you all to come and look, what does it look like for Kerr County? And so June 2022, we did a sting operation with FBI, with DPS and Kerr County. And so there were 9 men arrested right here in Kerr County, 3 women recovered. So it's really something worth talking about. So we invite everyone to come out next Tuesday.
Date again?
Next Tuesday, the 19th, and it'll start at 6 p.m.
At Tybee High School?
Tybee High School.
Okay. 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Nikki Keynes.
Hi, Nikki Gaines. I live in the city. I'm just here because I was sitting out in the foyer, and when all the proclamations were being made and we were mentioning the Field of Flags, which my husband and I also participated, I was thinking, we're out in the foyer. We're not in here actually being allowed to participate. So I'm just kind of saying we're not in COVID anymore. If the room could be reconstructed, that the people who are being honored through their proclamations, as well as those sitting outside waiting to come in, if we could just reconstruct the room so we could all be here together. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's the end of the citizen speakers.
Okay, thank you. All right, council, we are ready for the consent agenda. There are several things on there. Do we have some that need to be pulled?
We do have a citizen who wants to speak on 4A and 4C.
4C, all
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Do we have a motion for 4B, 4D, 4E, and 4F?
So moved.
Yes.
I move we adopt the consent agenda for B, D, E, and F.
Second. And a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. And it is unanimous. Thank you. All right, we'll go to 4A.
And the citizen speaker is George Baruti.
Mayor, on this one, do we start with citizen speakers? Because this was also one I was going to request to pull. Should we start with the speaker or council or staff, or what do we want to do?
Let's go ahead with our speaker, if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine.
George Brody, 1616 Glen Road. So this is one of those topics that we talk about a lot, or at least I do. And while I'm not suggesting you really change your vote based on anything I say on the resolution you're about to see, I would urge you to look and see what is really causing our water rates to be unstable, I guess is the term we're using. And also the concept, I mentioned it last time, the difference between a tax and a user fee. The water system is a utility. It is a user fee. It is not allowed to be a tax, but that's how we're treating it. The best way to point that out is the reuse system is budgeted to bring in, give or take, $200,000, less than $200,000 worth of revenue in this next coming year. It is also going to cost, in the next 6 years, each of those years, $1.8 million to pay for the debt service that was used to build the pond and the other items in the system. That's not for any other system. It's just the reuse system. There is absolutely zero cost to the potable customers zero expense to the potable customers that coincides with distributing the reuse water. And yet we're charging the potable water and sewers customer for that $1.8 million. And it was short-sightedness when we created the pond, where the KPUB loan was set up the way it is, but you'll see in your budget $1.2 million, give or take, for the next 6 years because of the way they paid that loan out. So I would urge you to consider readjusting your rates in the water system, not to where you spread it out as a tax, which is what it's doing, but where you actually allocate the costs of the different classes of customers, as you should be doing, to pay for that. And that's pretty much it on this particular item. Thanks.
Okay, 4C. Oh, Roman, I'm sorry, I forgot you. I guess you want to say something?
I do. First, do we have a staff that can respond to what the citizen just brought up?
If you want to go ahead, and I can do it all at once.
Okay. First, I'm trying to figure out where repealing a resolution. Okay, let me start off this way. Anytime we're doing something, I've asked this before, with a resolution or an ordinance, and if we are appealing a resolution, or if we are repealing an ordinance or amending it, I would appreciate a copy of whatever the original document that we're actually repealing or amending, because it just says here we're repealing the ordinance, the resolution 43-2021. But unless you have to request that document, nobody knows what it says. So in the future, I'd appreciate a copy of that. Well, I know, but for all other, and Ms. McElhennon, if you don't mind, allow me to finish. For all other ordinances and resolutions, if we can do that, because if you would let me finish, I liked what we did here. And I appreciated the fact that I could look at this and see the resolution that we were repealing, and that we usually don't have that. So I was going to say thank you for doing that, Ms. McElhennon, if I wasn't interrupted. Second is, we're repealing a resolution, but and our water and wastewater rates, but we're not replacing it with anything. Can you give us some information? I'll ask this in a question. If you want to answer all of them, you can. What are we doing in the forecast? Because it was my understanding that the reason we were going to institute this resolution was, one, as a policy for council, so we understood what the water and wastewater rates were going to look like in the future, and two, for the public to be informed what to expect in the future when we're developing our budget and what those rates can look like. When we repeal this and not replace it with anything, the citizens are left wondering, what is the council going to be doing 5 years from now? And as a council member, I'm left wondering, what are we doing 5 years from now? So if you don't mind answering that, I believe that is all. And obviously, I know what we're doing this year, this upcoming fiscal year in our budget, but it's more, this was a 5-year forecast, I believe, in planning. So what are we doing, or 3-year forecast, and so what are we doing?
Well, if you remember last year when we talked about budget, we actually talked about changing this resolution. And we should have repealed it then, and we didn't. And we talked about that during this budget process. And our plan was to come back with an updated one after inflationary impacts. A lot of things changed by the time we brought this to you in December of 20, I think, compared to December 21, compared to even going through the budget process in 22 and 23. So inflationary factors really wiped out the multi-year plan that we had in place. Our forecast right now, as far as the water forecast that we brought to you in February, that is the one we are working on. I'm not going to say we're ready to bring you back a multi-year rate, given that we're now in stage 4 water restrictions, and we're kind of having to adjust our model again based on what is the impact of that going to be. What's it going to be, for this year that we're in? What's it going to be moving forward? And so it's not something that there's a magic wand that we can just wave it at and say this is what we're going to be doing in 5 years from now. Do we believe in our forecast? We absolutely do, given all things that we know to be true. Now, just like we had a quick shift in inflation, we're seeing a quick shift in what is potentially an impact to water revenues. So the answer is we don't know. If I had a magic crystal ball, I'd be able to tell you. And if all things were normal every day, then, but basically what we're doing right now is just saying, we know that the multi-year rate plan that we brought to you in FY '21 isn't plausible. And we know that because we've adopted a budget since then, and just, this was planned to be amended, and now we're just asking to repeal it and bring that back to you when we have better data. We just don't have it right now, given everything that's going on. So I don't know what's gonna happen in 5 years. I wish I could tell you, I just don't. Our forecast right now is working. Our water model is working, but we haven't seen the impacts of the things we're dealing with right now yet. So I'm gonna let Stuart speak to the reuse pond unless you have debt questions, in which case we can answer.
I think Mr. Brody was even on council back then when they did the reuse ponds. I think the answer may be something that's just been forgotten, but the reuse pond was actually set up when we had a big committee of people that came together. There was about 18 or 19 people in there, and they said the reuse pond really doesn't make sense just for a reuse water system or reclaim water system. But as soon as we started talking about being it for a potable source in the future, that committee said, yes, it makes sense. If the city ever is going to use this in the future of the city of Kerrville as a potable water source, then we think this pond should be built. And that's why it was partially paid for by potable water systems. Those all of our reuse customers are under contract. They are under contract because when they first started their system, they went through a significant amount of costs and they needed some time to recover that cost. I think it's either 20 or 25 years, something of that nature. And so they locked them in for a long period of time. So it's not a tax, it's actually a sales cost, and it is locked in for a substantial period of time.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, 4C.
We need to take action on this item, Mayor.
I was going to do both of them together. We can do them individually. Do we have a motion?
To approve resolution number 29-2023.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. And it is unanimous, and thank you. 4C, do we have a speaker?
Yes, ma'am. Administrative Services Contract between the City of Kerrville and City of Kerrville, Texas Economic Improvement Corporation. And we have a speaker, George Baroudi.
George Brewery, 1616 Glen Road, and I came on just after they approved it, just so you know. But this is EIC. So the admin contract is, main focus is Article 1, Section A. It talks about the city, and it says EIC funded projects that involve improvements to the city and/or public property. The city will provide engineering services, among other things. And then it says EIC agrees to pay for such services as part of a project, which will be specified within a project agreement. This is essentially EIC paying twice for the same service. It's also them paying for a service that they wouldn't actually ever use. I believe, Mr. Harris, you work at a bank, right? I mean, basically, EIC is nothing more than a bank. It's a funding source where people apply for loans. The way this is set up, and if you read Section A, it says, if I'm coming to the bank, EIC in this case, to build a home or build a building, and it needs engineering services, I am going to ask you to loan me the money to pay for engineering services, and then you're going to pay me to provide you those services. And it makes no sense. There is no bank that I know of that ever actually pays for engineering services other than through a project agreement. This is not a project agreement that you guys are approving. You're approving an administrative contract, and the city does not provide engineering services to EIC. They provide them to themselves, as you read that, for projects that are on city property. That should be in those project agreements that are applied for. It should not be in here as the administrative contract. It's double dipping, and it's pretty clear, and it should be removed. And when it was first instituted, it accounted for about $100,000 of this contract, which I think is 205 or something now. But anyways, it's unnecessarily taken from EIC. Thanks.
Excuse me.
Okay, is there anyone who had anything to say? Roman?
This was another one I was going to pull too. I said this last year, and I'm going to reiterate it. Didn't we approve in EIC's budget the part of the professional service costs from EIC is the engineering and is the project management from the city staff side. I mean, I think that cost is included in the cost that EIC has to pay to the city.
So I think when I look at 2A, I see this differently. So that first sentence in there, the city agrees to provide project management services, coordination, oversight, internal, external, engineering, design, and bid
So on
process.
2A or 1A?
1A.
1A, okay.
1A. So that's us. That's our portion of it. That's me, that's Julie, that's Stuart. That's us in our capacity as employees. That second portion of that, where it talks about contract engineering or project management, is discussing if we need that outside expertise for a project, that EIC would pay for that. So I don't understand it as double dipping.
Okay, so, well, that's what I was gonna say. If we need outside expertise, isn't EIC already paying the city for that service that is expected to be provided, such as engineering? And if we
No.
need outside expertise, they would be paying again to another contractor who would be providing engineer services. I mean, this is the same situation that I brought up last year, and so I'm trying to figure out what are we doing?
So, I would think about it in terms of a one-off project that no one thought of. Someone comes in with an idea and they say, hey, this is what we would like to do, this is what this would be, right? And it has specialty engineering that is not normal, not something we would normally do, contracting that out, asking them to go look at that and give us a determination. That would be something that within this contract, we would ask for in that project, EIC to pay for that engineering service.
Okay, so I guess going back to my original question, what we need to narrow down is the $205,000 that is part of a compensation from EIC to the city. That is to include engineering services from the city, isn't that right?
That is to include our engineering department, yes.
Okay, so, perfect. So that's where, if this EIC is compensating the city for engineering services, and we ended up finding out that we need to contract out with someone else, they've already paid us, they're already compensating the city for that. And now in addition.
That's staff time versus a contract engineer for a project. Those are two different things.
Staff time and engineering?
Yes, sir.
So why do they pay us for engineering services, I guess? Is now the question, if we're gonna contract out.
Again, it's project specific if we need to contract those services out, right? Yeah, happy to jump in, sure.
So typically, our engineering staff does not do design work. We do administrative review, we do inspections, and we do project management to the time that we have to do project management. It's not always we even contract that out. All the design work we do is outsourced, and so that's the difference between what we do internally and what we do externally. And I think that's kind of where you may be drawing a question is, yes, I think our portion of the staff work is done as part of the contract, and then there's additional work and services that are done outside of it.
So if we don't need the additional services, that's something that the city would otherwise do then?
It depends on what the additional services are. There's a big scope of work there depending on what all needs to be done and what we have time to do internally. If we have time, we'll do we'll do as much of our own work as we can. It just depends on where we're at that particular moment in time and how much we can handle internally.
How often do we need to go to an outside consultant or outside engineer for services?
Depends on the project, the size and the time, and I mean, it's just a staff recommendation of how much work we're doing. Right now, we're building the public safety facility, and that is eating a lot of our staff time. And not only engineering time, but I think the chief of police can argue, or can mention that, fire chief. There is a lot of us sitting in those meetings discussing what is the best option to build this building, and how do we do that the most effective way. And so we are outsourcing quite a bit more engineering than we typically would right now.
Well, in the last, I'll let you finish because my time's gonna run out and they won't let me speak afterwards because of our rules that we have to follow, but we won't follow the one about the visitors forum time.
Please.
What I think the point is that we're being compensated for engineering services, and unless we need to go outside, they just pay us. That's what was just said. And otherwise, now they pay again. And we've been doing this over.
So the good example right now is the Downtown River Trail. So Hewitt Associates is the engineer that's helping us with that project. And his services are paid for within the scope of that project, right? So our staff hasn't engineered the design services for that. That comes from Hewitt Engineering. So that is project specific, didn't exist before the project existed, and that is paid for through the EIC funds, separate and apart from this agreement.
I understand that.
Okay.
And Roman, I think it's also important to remember that EIC is very comfortable with this agreement. So there's been no question about it, and they feel like they are getting their money's worth. So, all right, do we have a motion to accept 4C?
I move to approve the administrative services contract between the City of Kerrville and the Kerrville Economic Improvement Corporation with an amendment to strike Article 1, Section A.
Do we have a second to that motion? We do not have a second. Do we have another motion?
I move we approve the administrative service contract between the City of Kerrville and the City of Kerrville, Texas Economic Improvement Corporation.
Do we have a second?
Yes, ma'am.
We have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Mr. Garcia is opposed. Thank you. All right, let's move on to 5A. Shelley, if you'll read us in, please.
All right. Ordinance number 2023-22, an ordinance changing the zoning of a property known as 202 McCollum Drive, consisting of Lot 1, Block 1 of the Oak Hollow Estates Edition, and within the City of Kerrville, Kerr County, Texas, from a single-family residential zoning district R1 to a neighborhood commercial zoning district C1, and providing other matters relating to the subject. There are no citizen speakers signed up. However, this is a public hearing.
Public hearing, yes, thank you. Mr. Paxton.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a zone change for 202 Mac Holloman. This property was previously zoned, I believe, the South 34 district from the old zoning code. When we redid the zoning code in 2019, it was zoned R1. I can only assume based on the consistency with the rest of the properties on the block. It has been a commercial use for as long as I could find in our records. So the applicant, the owner, approached the city about changing it to C1, and it is consistent with our Kerrville 2050 plan. Maybe. There we go. Here's the current zoning map, and it is within the strategic catalyst area number 10, which does talk about this corridor and the commercial uses along Loop 534 and Highway 173. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended this case with a unanimous approval on August 3rd. Be pleased to answer any questions.
All right, council, any questions on this piece of property?
Full disclosure, Kerrville Pets Alive looked at this property and actually brought the kind of the discrepancy in the ordinance up to Drew because it had functioned as a C1 zoned business. So I don't know whether I need to abstain from this vote, but I want to let you know that I did inquire about this property for Kerrville Pets Alive.
There's nothing. No.
Okay, awesome. Okay.
Okay, any other questions, council, for anyone? For Drew? All right, are we ready for a motion?
Public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is a public hearing. My apologies. Yes. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this ordinance? Oh, I need to gavel in. I'm sorry. 6:59, and we will open the public hearing. Now I will ask if there is anyone who would like to speak. All right, at 6:59, we will close the public hearing, and we are now ready for a motion.
I move we approve ordinance number 2023-22.
I'll second that.
Do you have a second? All in favor, raise your right hand. And it is unanimous. All right, thank you guys for keeping me legal. All right, we are ready for 5B. Shelley?
Ordinance number 2025. Budget for the City of Kerrville, Texas, fiscal year 2024, providing appropriations for each city department and fund, containing a cumulative clause and containing a savings and severability clause. We do have one citizen speaker signed up, however, this is a public hearing.
Ms. Behrens,
Good
please.
evening. So I do have the 2-hour presentation pulled up if y'all want that. I can do that again. But I thought we'd keep it simple. Just give you a couple things on the budget here, just overview, since we've been through 2 workshops and a retreat and a 2-hour presentation. We'll just give you the highlights here. So citywide, about 78 million in revenues and 106 in expenses, 106 million, I should say, in expenses. Net of transfers, I have that listed there because, again, we talk about transfers being revenue to one fund and expense to the other. So that's not actual cash moving. It's just for accounting purposes. So I did want to show you what that was, net of those transfers. On the general fund side, it is balanced per policy. So 37.6 million in revenues and expenses, and the water fund, 15.6 million. It is also balanced per policy. Projects we estimate to be around 32 million, and of course those are mostly multi-year, so those are simply estimates based on progress to date, and then what we expect to happen. And then all other funds coming in right about 21 million. So expenses actually exceed revenues, as we've talked about, by about 28 million, and that's just due to the multi-year nature of those projects. And then some of the special funds that aren't required to be balanced or that have received revenue in one year that won't be expensed until the next. So those numbers do not include EIC's budget. However, that was presented to you as separately as a component unit fund. So unless we have specific questions, we have a very specific motions that have to be made regarding this, and I think Mike and I guess, both gave them to you tonight, so there shouldn't be confusion on that.
We got them.
And we have them on the screen, so I will open it up to questions or speakers and then answer those questions before we move on, and I do have that presentation if you need it.
Okay. Are there any questions before we open for the public hearing?
I'll wait till after, that's fine.
Okay. At 7:02, we will open the public hearing, and I understand we do have a speaker.
Yes, ma'am, Peggy McKay.
Peggy McKay, 103 Westchester, Kerrville. I'm looking at the water billing and the increases, and I did a comparison for 1,900 gallons. The cost in 2018 was $56.47. In 23, it was $65.94, which was a 16.5% increase. And then in 24, in that 5-year period from 18 to, I guess that's 6 years, to 2024, it's a 22% increase. Included in this also is a stormwater fee of $1 on the residential customers. And I have 2 questions about that. What comes under a stormwater fee charge? And also, is this a dedicated item prior to this time? If this is a dedicated item now charged to stormwater, how was it handled fiscally in the past? And then on the 2024 budget, I understand that there was a budget amendment that allocated the overage from fiscal year 2022 that was applied to asset replacement fund and a transfer to the CIP for future projects. Both of those are used as reasons for the increase in our budget. Another transfer out to the general fund is my favorite street use fee. This year it's $618,000. If we look at the transfers out, as I recall, the street maintenance fee is now $2,015,000 or $150,000, something like that. But when you take away the $618,000 from the street use fee, we're back to the $1.5 million or close to it that we had before, and it looks like the street use fee from the water fund is supplementing the general fund. I believe the emphasis should be on the water and not the general fund. We should not be making that transfer, in my opinion. Then the $5,300 or 5,300 average gallon of water that residential users have. If we add the new Lennar projects, I figured on 525 houses, we're going to be needing 3.3 million additional gallons a month to meet those demands, plus we have a handful of other projects. This increases the additional demand on our water supply, and my question is, where's it going to come from? As far as I know, we don't have any new sources of water. I know we're in a drought now, and we won't be in the future. However, we'll still have additional units requiring water. And my concern again is, where will we get the water? Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? All right, at 7.
George.
George?
Still George Broody at 1616 Glen Road. So, yeah, water's one, and we get to talk about my other favorite one with the streets. So I asked questions last time I spoke at a different meeting. And I said, how much expense is incurred on streets wear and tear in 2023? We don't have a concrete number, but we do have estimates, and it's now over $5 million of wear and tear. So to put the streets back the way they were at the beginning of this fiscal year would take $5 million of investment into them to just keep them maintained. How much do we actually net invest in the streets? Not counting debt service, because that's just a placeholder, has an equal negative balance on there, I'm calling it $2.5 million. So we're still short. Our budget is actually short, $2.5 million just in streets. You can look at your facility maintenance, infrastructure maintenance, the buildings and whatnot that we have. Public safety is a perfect example. We're doing it all throughout our budget. So every time we have a budget, we have an opportunity to correct some of this. And instead of directing some of our spending into wants, we should be prioritizing these absolute needs. Because what we're doing with streets is nothing more than deferred expense. And it's what we did with the public safety all the time. And that's how we got in this situation. And the other thing that it raises a red flag on, again, back to the banker, if we're borrowing money to pay for maintenance, which is what we did with public safety and it's what we did with streets, we're doing nothing more than going to a bank and saying, can I borrow money to pay my rent? And I don't think a bank's going to loan us money on rent, because it's if you don't have your rent, you don't have your basic maintenance. And so we need to actually address it. We should be putting it on. These are incurred expenses that we know of, and our policy is that we book the expense when they occur, not when they are invoiced and not when we spend them, but when they are incurred. And driving on it every year is creating that. So we should be putting it on there so that your council and the next council goes in wide open, and the new city manager, he's looking at something that's, it's legal to do this, but it's misleading to say that our tax base is supporting our current service level. We need to address it, or it's going to blow up on us in short order. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? All right, at 7:09, we will close the public hearing. Council, comments before we vote?
One thing, question, not expecting an answer now, just because it was just brought to my attention shortly before the meeting, so I didn't have time to email this to you, so you don't have to give me an answer now. but if you wouldn't mind taking a look at the, trying to find what page it's on. Yep, here it is. The stormwater fee for residential purposes. I believe that the fee was probably supposed to be $1 in last fiscal year when we were looking at the proposed budget. And this year it was 60 cents. And so I know the proposed change is to go from 60 cents to $1, which is 40 cents. But looking at bills that people have been paying too, they've been paying the $1 instead of the 60 cents. No?
No, yes and no. But yes and no, I wrote that one down as part of them. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll stop. That was
Is that
my
it?
question there. I'll make my
Okay.
statement afterwards if
Okay.
you don't mind answering that.
If you want to, go ahead, because I've got a list. I can just address them all at once, if there might be some other things.
No, that was it.
Okay, so the reason that you're seeing the stormwater environmental fee, that used to be one fee grouped, and if you remember, I think going into the 22 budget, and I don't want to speak too detail on this, I'm gonna have to go back and look when we did it. We broke those out for transparency, so part of that goes to the landfill post-closure, and part of that goes to some specific street stuff, but that is dedicated, and like I said, I don't want to get too deep in that without going back and reviewing exactly my notes, but those are two fees for transparency before they were grouped as one. So you saw the $1 before, and now you're gonna see the 60 cents, and so they're two separate, and we did that because we didn't feel like there was really adequate transparency on a utility bill, so you're just seeing two instead of one.
Okay,
But there's reasoning behind both of those, and I can get you that detail.
Okay, so in the current year we're in right now, people were seeing their residential utility fee for stormwater. It was combined with the landfill fee
Right.
was combined.
They
in
were
that,
combined, and it
$1.
was called environmental fee or something like that, and it was going to two different places, and so we just decided, just for transparency, let's break that into two lines so people can actually see two separate pieces on their bill.
Okay, so that's already broken down.
It
We're
is.
just now putting that into effect in the budget.
Right, last year it was grouped in one line, and so we broke it out, that's why it's highlighted in yellow in the fee schedule, or the proposed fee schedule, you'll see it. And I can, like I said, I can get you more detail on that, I'll need to go back and look specifically at my notes, because that's was one of the smaller pieces of the fee schedule. But we did specifically change that to where it's hitting the utility bill as two, just for transparency reasons, because it actually is going to two different places, and those are dedicated funds.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Yep.
The rest of are we being timed right now, so I know how much time I have left? Thank you. Okay. In the current form of the budget, so this is the third budget I'm going to be voting on, and I have been advocating for ways that we could properly address our vital infrastructure needs first before anything else, and that's been one of my top priorities. I believe that this proposed budget, and let me be clear, this isn't an outlook on city staff at all. This is an outlook on council priorities. I don't believe that this budget properly reflects what needs to be done with our infrastructure. I don't think there are adequate funds put towards our streets, our water rates. One thing that I've been looking at that was probably my priority this year was the water rates. One thing I was focusing on, not my priority. The thing I focused on, and I find it interesting, especially now that we go into a stage 4 conservation. People are going to be charged more, yet they can't use the water, and we're continuing to do that every single fiscal year. And rather than raising the base rate or raising that first tier structure, if we're really going to try to conserve water and push those rates higher, those should be on the high user ends and on that tiered structure. But to raise the base rate, the rate that everybody has to pay, no matter what, and when we're in a stage 4 conservation and they can't use the water, to me, unfortunately, just respectfully, just doesn't make sense. I don't think this addresses, I just said the infrastructure, and all of this is I'm really looking forward to seeing what our new maintenance plan is gonna look like for the streets, and when they do when they take a look back at it and see how we've been doing since the last one, because I think it's really gonna show, I'm hoping if it's gonna be a true report, it's really gonna show what we have and what we've been lacking. And so, unfortunately, I I've been working to try, in these last 3 years, these last 3 budgets, and I can't move forward continuing the way we're doing it right now. And I'd like council to, you know, make sure we get our priorities straight, especially in our budget, because that's where everything comes from.
Council, anyone else have comments you would like to make? All right, are we ready for a motion for adopting the budget? And we have some very specific language. Is someone?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 2023-25 to adopt the city's budget for fiscal year 2024 on first reading.
Second.
We have a second. Shelley, you need to do a roll call for us, please.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor Agner,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
No.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Herring,
Yes.
Councilmember Hughes,
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 4-1 with one no, thank you, one no, thank you. All right, and then I believe we need a second reading for this one, correct?
Second motion.
Second motion, yes.
I'd like to move that, make a motion that we ratify the vote to adopt the budget that will require raising more revenue from property taxes than the previous fiscal year.
Do we have a second? Second from Brenda. All right, you will do a roll call for us again?
Mayor Agner,
Yes.
Can I ask a
Roll call.
but can I ask a legal question on here?
That's right, we don't on this.
If we're ratifying the vote on the budget for the raising more revenue, I'm trying to understand how it coincides with our next item, 5C.
It's in order, that's just directly out of state law, yeah.
So, trying to figure out a way how to phrase this.
We are, and Julie can address this too, we're reducing our rate, but we're actually raising the taxes.
No, I understand what we're doing. I think the more the question is, that's what I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it. If we're voting on a budget, I mean, I'm trying to understand because it looks like this appears, and I know this is legal and we have to do it this way. We've always done it this way, so I'm not confused on that. But because my vote was a no on the first one to adopt the budget, is the second vote more of a tax? That's more of a tax rate motion than the budget as a whole, right?
This is more of a motion, and I'm not trying to be smart with
No,
this.
no, go ahead.
More of a motion that the legislature requires you all to adopt. I think to make sure that the taxpayer knows exactly what you've done with your budget vote. And so whether that aligns with your previous vote or not, that's up to you.
Right.
But this is, we have no discretion whether to change this language or to move it or not do it. I mean, this is straight out of the 102, chapter 102 of the local government code. I looked at it again today. I probably spend an hour and a half on this exercise every year to make sure that you all are doing it correctly.
Right.
So,
I'm just trying to make sure I understand, but they're requiring us to do it because it's the tax rate we're adopting in our budget, not the way our budget puts out expenditures, right?
Saying that you understand that the budget is gonna require raising more taxes from
Right.
revenue than we did
Okay,
last year.
because
That's the
my
statement,
disagreement with the first one, voting against
Right.
the budget, was I didn't agree how we were, dispersing
Understood.
funds to certain projects. This one is not even about that. It's more focused on just the rate, right?
Well, not the rate, it's just saying we know the budget's gonna require more revenue from property taxes than last year.
Right,
It's just
which has to do-
that's the
okay.
statement, it's just in that language. and
All right,
that's
I
the-
just want to make sure I
Yes.
completely understood that before I cast my vote. Thank you.
Okay, so we do not need a roll call on this one. We have a motion on the floor, we have a second on it. All in favor, raise your right hand. And it passes unanimously. Okay, then we will move to 5C.
Ordinance number 2023-26, an ordinance levying an ad valorem property tax for the use and support of the municipal government of the city of Kerrville, Texas for fiscal year 2024, apportioning each levy for specific purposes, providing when taxes shall become due and when same shall become delinquent if not paid. We do have one citizen speaker signed up, however, this is a public hearing.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, I'm going to keep this short, but a few things on here that are kind of important that we talk about. So I think kind of back to Mr. Garcia's question about the ratification. So one does kind of run into the other a little bit. So just to give kind of a little overview on the property tax rate. So the rate that we proposed is $55.95, so 0.5595. That's on every $100 of assessed value. That's our total rate that's being proposed, okay? That's a 2.7% decrease from our current rate. It doesn't exactly align with the legal language, and I'll explain that in a minute. I outlined here the interest in sinking, which is the debt portion, so it went from 1411 to 1410. That just naturally happens over time, as we talked about last year. As values go up and revenue goes up, then your rate can naturally go down. Maintenance and operations portion is proposed at 4185. That's a 3.6% decrease from the rate that we currently have. So again, our rate is often driven by values. So our rate for 23, the current year is 4341, so you can see that decrease there. So these are all based on KRCAD certified values that we received on July 25th. And so these are rates as far as our no new revenue rate and our no new revenue M&O rate. Those are determined by the tax assessor. We worked through that 18 or 20 page calculation that you've seen in the back of the budget book there. And then that also gives us our no new revenue on both portions and our voter approval rate. So you can see those there. So I know we've worked through that a little bit. The reason I wanted to explain that is because this gets really tricky. And basically the way state law reads is what they're comparing to when we have to put this into form in an ordinance or a motion is the no new revenue maintenance and operations rate compared to the maintenance and operations rate. They're not talking about 1 year to the next. They're saying if we use the no new revenue rate, we would raise zero revenue more than we did last year on those same properties. But because we're not using the no new revenue rate, this is the percent increase. So that's how that's calculated. It has nothing to do with the way we budget. It's very confusing, and so I want to make sure that we're all on the same page about exactly what we're talking about. So that 2.98% increase is talking about the difference between the maintenance and operations no new revenue rate and the proposed maintenance and operations rate. It's confusing, but we've talked to so many cities and they're working through the same process. So there's some contradictory in there. So I did put some explanation in there just in case, so there's no confusion about what we're actually doing.
Thank you.
I'm happy to answer any questions on that as well.
Okay, before we open the public hearing, does anyone have a comment they would need to make? All right, at 7:22, we will open the public hearing, and we have a speaker, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Russell Mobley.
Yes, my name is Russell Mobley. I live at 1041 Roanoke Lane, up in the Keystone development. I had come here for like 10 years. Every time I was on vacation from New Jersey and visited Kerrville, I always spent a day here because I wanted to come here. It's a beautiful town. Like to think that I could stay here in the future, but I started doing some numbers on a spreadsheet after getting the tax increase, and as you know, as most of you can see, I'm retired, so I was trying to figure that how much it would be in 10 years, and my house would raise from $364,000 to like 1.41 million. And I'm trying to figure out how I wouldn't be forced out of my house, and like the other people, the majority of the people around me are retired like me, and so just trying to figure out how, with all the increases and the appraisals that jump like 42,000 in a year, how I can stay here. I'd love to stay here. I love the town, beautiful town, like the people. I'm a Texan. who left Texas and came back, and I'd like to think that I could stay here, but I'm not seeing how I could do that with the money, the income that I would have, because it would just gobble up like 2/3 of my Social Security, and then I wouldn't have any money to live, you know. So, and I went to yesterday's meeting, and basically what I heard was a lot of, you know, well, in Washington, a lot of things trickle down, and so, you know, we're all facing this, but bottom line is, you know, older retired person, probably a younger person is faced with many of the same things, and older people on a fixed income, you have two choices. You either have to go back to work, start bagging groceries or something, you know, delivering pizza or something to subsidize your income so you can pay for the new taxes. The tax rates are, you know, I just don't foresee that I could stay here if that's the case. And that's providing that I live that long, but I'm hoping that I do. So it's a concern that I wanted to bring up, and a lot of the citizens around me have the same concerns, you know, how can we sustain this, you know, 10 years out, you know, and I don't know how. So just wanted to bring up my concern.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? All right, at 7:25, we will close the public hearing. Any comments, council, before we go to our vote? All right, we have another motion that has been presented to us, and we do need a roll call on this one. So is someone prepared to make the motion?
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 2023-26, that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.5595, which is effectively a 2.98% increase in the tax rate.
Do we have a second? Second from Brenda, thank you.
Did you say 2.29?
No,
it's
2.98.
2.98.
I read it wrong, I'm sorry, 2.98.
Oh, I think you've read it right. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, and Shelley, if you will do the roll call, please.
Mayor Eidner,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Herring,
Yes.
Councilmember Hughes.
Yes. All right, it is approved. Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Appreciate all your extras there.
Thank you.
Who's getting to go after me today?
Okay. We are ready for 6A. Shelley, if you will read us in.
Ordinance number 2023-28, an ordinance amending Chapter 26 Building and Building Regulations of the Code of Ordinances, City of Kerrville, Texas, by adding a new Article 11, grading and filling, to create regulations, including the permit requirement for any activity associated with the disturbance of land under specified conditions, providing for a penalty to the maximum amount of $2,000 for violations thereof, providing other matters relating to the subject. There are no citizen speakers signed up, and this is not a public hearing.
Now for the real exciting stuff.
Yes, Mr. Paxton. Lay it on us.
We did have a workshop about the grading permit as proposed with the Code Review Committee, so this will be pretty short. Again, the Code Review Committee, at least 7 of their meetings, discussed where they wanted to focus on the level of work being done and the level of enforcement necessary for those. So they did discuss vegetative clearing, tree removal, and grading, including cut and fill work. They did eventually recommend a grading permit. We'll kind of go through that. A few pictures, just kind of make sure we're all on the same page of what terms we're talking about, just a couple examples around town. This is an example at the end of a cul-de-sac that would be a cut and clearing. As you can see to the right of the screen, they've cleared for what would have been future right-of-way for this development, and obviously the cut into the hillside there. This is one that was some clearing, grading, and cut and fill. This is the multifamily housing on Lehman Drive. Another project that was clearing, grading, and fill. There was not any cut performed here on this one, but they did bring in that fill dirt to level that site. Another one that was clearing, grading, cut, and fill. And as you can see, one of the issues we ran into here was the amount of erosion coming into the roadway during construction. And again here, you can see where that silt fence failed. So some of these do have regulations under either TCEQ or our civil construction plan permits, and our engineering inspectors work with them for these kind of problems and work through those. But just to show you some of the examples and issues that we do have. The committee finally settled on 1 acre or 1 acre or more of land disturbance would require a permit. A 1/4 acre of disturbance if the property is adjacent to a floodplain, creek, or river. And then the grading permit is not required if the project has already approved civil construction plans, a floodplain permit, or a building permit. That information for the cut and fill and the grading would be contained in those documents already. So effectively, the approval of those plans includes the grading permit information. So didn't want to permit them twice for the same work. Here's a summary of the standards for those permits that you have in your ordinance as well. Again, the applicant should submit a drainage plan or a copy of their stormwater prevention plan with permit, providing any information on the intended use of the property if they have any intended use identified. The stockpiling of any dirt or other fill material is temporary up to 180 days. No grading shall exceed the maximum slope of 3 to 1 without geotech and civil engineering report. No cut or fill shall exceed 6 feet in depth without a signed and sealed geotech and civil engineering report. Permit shall expire within 180 days. Erosion control devices must be installed prior to the disturbance, and the city shall require full evidence of compliance with all other local and state laws. With that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
I'm curious, Drew, with the housing on Lehman, what, just off the top of your head, I realize I didn't ask you this ahead of time, I should have, but would there have been a lot of changes in what they did with this in place?
Not that I know of. The previous property owner did clear the cedar and mulched that cedar. I don't believe there was a lot of actual dirt work done at that time. Once the current property owner took over the site, started working through their civil construction plans, that's when they started really doing the dirt work and the cut and fill. So there was a little bit of an interim where this may not have solved some of the runoff problems that was seen on the adjacent properties with the clearing of the land.
Okay.
Again, or clearing the cedar. But that I know of, I don't think they actually did any dirt work during that time.
Okay, thank you.
And then the code review committee did talk about that as well, but they didn't think that there was a need for a separate clearing permit at this time.
Okay.
So they decided to hold off on that and just leave it as dirt work and grading.
Council, any questions? Other questions? And what is a grading permit cost off the top of your head? Do you know?
I do not. I'll have to check with engineering.
Okay.
I'll get back to you on the second reading.
Anyone? Okay. Good thing for us to get in place. I'm sure it took them a long time to work through this. This is very tedious and complicated. And I understand that they gathered from other towns and put that all together. So that's good. All right. Ready for a motion?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 2023-28.
Second?
Second.
From Joe, thank you. All in favor, raise your right hand. And it is unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank the Code Committee for us, please, for all of their work. All right, we are ready for 7A. Shelley? Long one.
Resolution number 26-23. A resolution approving a negotiated settlement between the Atmos City Steering Committee, ACSC, and Atmos Energy Corporation Midtex Division regarding the company's 2023 rate review mechanism filing, declaring existing rates to be unreasonable, adopting tariffs that reflect rate adjustments consistent with the negotiated settlement, finding the rates to be set by the attached settlement tariffs to be just and reasonable in the public interest, approving an attachment establishing a benchmark for pensions and retiree medical benefits, requiring the company to reimburse ACSC's reasonable rate-making expenses, determining that this resolution was passed in accordance with the requirements of the Texas Open Meeting Act, adopting a savings clause, declaring an effective date, and requiring delivery of this resolution to the company and ACSC's legal counsel. And there are no citizen speakers signed up.
All right. Did you dream about this one?
Not normally. Maybe tonight. Maybe there's always tonight. This is an annual agenda item, and just for the record, I don't write the resolution. It comes from our legal consultants. I would probably, certainly this time of night, have a shorter caption at least. If adopted, I think the main thing to take away is it'll approve a rate settlement with Atmos Energy Corporation, which is known as Atmos Gas, which is the gas provider for our area. If you've looked at the agenda bill and read that, that provides some history of kind of the whole rate review process and the current status, and then of their rate increase that they request every year, right? The review, when they submit their request for a rate increase, they submit it to this Atmos Cities Steering Committee. Well, they give each city notice, right? But the city's steering committee, which we're a member of, we pay to be a member of that based on our population. They go to work and they hire consultants and have their legal counsel review it and then negotiate what they believe is a fair rate increase. I think along with the agenda bill, the recitals, I think, go through this whole process and what's going on as well. Let's see. So this rate review mechanism, I think it bears repeating that was a process that the attorneys agreed to back in 2007. And so that's outside of state law, and I think it actually saves money and time and is a more efficient process. But getting to exactly what the company has claimed this year, they claim that their cost of service back in 2022 entitled it to an additional system-wide revenues of $165.9 million. System-wide is beyond just the scope of the city's steering committee. It's basically statewide, as I recall. Dallas is its own little section, and they do their own review, and then these cities that basically go from the Metroplex, I think all the way, Abilene, and all the way down to, I think Del Rio is the westernmost city that's part of it now, and I may have that incorrect, but it's a pretty wide swath of cities. So anyway, they've requested a system-wide revenue increase of $165.9 million. Our folks applied the RRM process, and they think that Atmos really deserves a $142 million increase, and so that's what we've agreed upon. We being ACSC and Atmos. And those new rates will be effective as of October 1st. And that's what our steering committee is recommending to you, the consultants and the legal counsel. So let me just talk real briefly about the impact. Impact on an average residential rate is $647 per month, which is a 7.31% increase. And the average commercial usage would go up $24.72 a month, which is a 5.19% increase. So if you all adopt this resolution, you will have said that is, in, your opinion based on what you've seen from the consultants and what you know of their work through me. You believe that's a fair rate increase for this coming year, beginning October 1st. So I think the ACSC does good work. They meet quarterly. When they issue reports, I try to get those to you so you know what we're doing. The most recent one talks about what what they're doing, getting ready for the winter, and so here we are. Another annual rate increase that you all need to approve, or at least consider for approval.
And very honestly, Mike, we don't have a lot of say in this, right?
Well, you could go.
What happens if we
say
don't?
no. Yeah.
Well, we would be out on our own, and we would be hiring our own consultant, because, anytime you can dispute these, but it helps to have some evidence.
Yeah.
And so we would have to go develop our own evidence, and which could be done, right? Perhaps. But ACSC has developed evidence and, crunched the numbers, so to speak, and believes they've come to what they believe is a fair rate.
All right, council, questions for Mike? Any comments? All right, are we ready for a motion?
Yes, I move that we approve resolution number 31-2023. Oh, that's not the right
No,
one. I'm on the wrong
yeah, I was
page.
gonna
I'm
say.
sorry. Resolution number 26-2023.
Okay, a second?
Second.
From Jeff, thank you. All in favor, raise your right hand, and it is unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike. No more nightmares. Okay, 7B. Kim, you're going to, oh yes, you need to read it in first. Thank you.
2023, a resolution approving the right of city employees to purchase continued health coverage at retirement subject to conditions specified within the city's personnel policies and procedures manual. There are no citizen speakers signed up.
All right.
So presentation and discussion was held during the workshop. And again, the purpose of this item is to offer future retirees the right to purchase group health benefits upon retirement at no cost to the city, and staff recommends approval of this resolution. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
I've already made this motion, but I can do it again.
I'm going to ask a question just for clarification for the citizens that weren't here. We know the answer to, but there is absolutely no cost to the city of Kerrville for this to happen.
That's correct. The cost is incurred 100% by the retiree for the cost of the benefits.
You said that earlier. I just wanted to make sure it was on the record in the meeting. So.
Yes, sir.
All right, anyone else? All right, Joe?
I move we adopt resolution number 31-2023.
Second.
And we have a second from Jeff. All in favor, raise your right hand, and it is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You just made a lot of employees happy.
All right. Thank you, Kim.
Finally.
Yeah.
Always.
All right, we have another one, 7C.
Authorizations to negotiate a professional services agreement for the facility condition assessment and maintenance plan project. There are no citizen speakers signed up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You've heard us talk about this various times throughout the budget process, and we're finally bringing it to you. I'll give you a quick little rundown. So this was brought up in the 2050 plan, getting our facility condition assessment and space needs. We're doing the same thing for the public safety facility. We want to do that for the existing facilities that we have. So give you a quick time frame. Last October, you approved the budget that this was in, and between October and June, looks like there was a long time because we wanted to go through that asset, the committee that we've got through the budget process and see what really, we need to drill down and get included into this plan versus what, staff is really knowledgeable on, and kind of narrow down the scope a little bit to be more precise. So once we got that with finance and the committee, in June we issued the RFPs. That's a request for proposals, and those came in late July. The committee, different committee, selection committee, evaluated those based off the criteria, and we're here before you tonight to get the approval of the rankings. So there's a lot of verbiage on here for the scope of this work. I just wanted to let you guys see this. It's any intricate detail within a building. So City Hall, for example, this was, we moved into this in 2012. Has any maintenance been done on the AC? Has any maintenance been done on the roof? We're going to look at every little component of a facility, and I'll show you the facilities here in a second of which ones we're going to do. We're going to look at every little component because what we want to do as part of this project is to develop a 10-year plan, come back to you during the budget cycle next year, start developing an asset replacement management, whatever we need to come forth and get our facilities up to the required codes and maintenance, so we don't have the issues we had at the library and Callow Theater. So these are the 19 facilities. I'm not going to go through them all. Like I said, a lot of them are just you know, antiquated buildings that and I say antiquated, they're a little bit newer now, but some of these haven't been touched in several years. Fire Station 1, that's 2013 when we did that project. I'd have to get with Maloney to find the specifics, but we don't have a continuous maintenance plan that says that, as staff, we need to be doing this, or we need to hire outside sources to get the appropriate maintenance to get these facilities to be prolonged on their lifetime. Moving into a $45 million public safety facility, we want to make sure that this level of detail is incurred on that facility as well. So, with that, we had the criteria per our government code. We have to go out through the selection and post the criteria that they are going to be ranked off of. A lot of it for this one was pretty simple. We got firms across the nation that are very experienced in doing this. What we really wanted to see is how precise they were with city, municipality versus a school district or some other resource. And then see what their project approach was and their schedule. Because for us, critical time frame is to get something before you, next budget cycle. But we need some time to digest that and present a comprehensive plan back to you. So, with that, what we're asking tonight is for you to approve the ranking of these three teams. The Matrix Design Group was ranked number 1 by the selection committee, Terracon 2, and Bureau Veritas 3. The action that is being asked is approval for the city manager to continue negotiations and finalize an agreement. So, just give you a quick overview on those next steps. Like I said, we're in the September 23 agenda right now. We're hoping to kick this off first part of the year once we get contract signed. And then about March, we figure this is going to be about a 6 to 9 months. We'll have a first draft in March from the consultants based on what we've discussed with each of them, and we will have something for you to look at for the next budget cycle. With that, any questions?
Do you have a cost estimate for?
So right now, this is budgeted at $150,000. What we're looking at. The cost varied significantly. We're looking at about $120,000 is what we're looking to get narrowed down on scope for.
And this is already budgeted, or we want to budget?
Yes, ma'am. It's budgeted in FY23.
Okay.
Was the library on that list?
Yes, ma'am. So the library is on the right-hand side, right above the fire stations.
Oh, there it is. Okay, good.
How's this going to affect us, Kyle, when we move into the new public safety facility? Because I see that we have municipal courts building, and we'll be moving out of that, moving that over. Was that going to have any adverse effect on the budget?
So court will actually look at the building to maybe reuse it for another city department. That's something to be determined. What we want to see is that was built in 2008 or remodeled in 2008. We want to see where it stands now, see if it's feasible, see if we want to sell it, see and then get admin and council on the same page of what we want to do with that facility. PD, we are well aware of the issues with that one, so we weren't even going to include it with this one. I don't want to waste time and money on something that we know.
I mean, I saw that one, and I saw the IT building, and I know that both of those are supposed to move.
Right. Same thing with the IT building.
Thank you, sir.
How long do you think the whole assessment, a year?
About 6 to 9 months. It is really the assessment itself is only going to take about a month. They're going to sit down, do interviews, and they're going to just come into every building on this list with full staff engagement all day long, looking at every little component, looking at serial numbers on an AC unit so that they can look up that model number, tell us exactly when it was manufactured. We'll go through some process early on with what we know. The library, for example, we know that was remodeled in about 2011. City Hall built in 2012. I've got those plans ready for for delivery over to the selected firms, and that'll be part of the process. And then we'll engage with some of the current staff that does building maintenance and say, okay, what are the issues you see on all of these facilities?
Okay. Any other questions, council? All right, are we ready to approve this?
Yeah, I will move to authorize the city manager to negotiate and finalize an agreement for the project.
Second?
Second.
Jeff, thank you. All in favor, raise your right hand, and it is unanimous. All right, thank you very much. And we're ready for a water update. You're gonna bring some more down from the sky, right?
I hope so. I didn't put a presentation together because there's not many pretty pictures to talk about on the waterfront. But the good news, well, I'll start by saying we're still in stage 4. And so we like to do these updates at least once a month with council, just kind of get a feel for where we're at, how the system's running, where our water supplies are. So I'll go through all 4 stages of all 5 sources of our water. But first of all, the weather is changing. I mean, everybody's seen that, right? And so we're getting a little bit cooler days, a little cooler nights, and there's actually a little bit of water or a little bit of rain in the area. And we've actually had a little bit of rain this week. So things are looking good, looking up for us. We're not in dire straits as one may think, but we are still significantly, I mean, we haven't had enough rain to do anything yet, but we are starting to see the corner a little bit. So the run-of-the-river water is the one we'll talk about first. That's the water flowing in the Guadalupe River. It's almost non-existent. It's anywhere from 5 CFS to 0.5 CFS, depending on where you're looking at it in the city. And that's a little bit of an averaging. We had some rain a few days ago, about 14 days ago, and that's when it came up to 5, and now it's back down to around 7. So it does fluctuate quite a bit very easily with those rain events. But right now we're not pulling any of the run-of-the-river water. We are mining the lake still. So far we're about, the normal elevation of our lake is 1621. We're currently at about 1616. So we're about 4.9 feet low, almost 5 feet down from our normal pooling elevation at the lake. We still have 7.5 feet of water in front of our intake structure. And so if you calculate that out, that gets you about 12 more weeks. There's a whole bunch of variables there. I mean, just straight math is the way we figured that. But as you come down in the lake, you're going to have less of a return. So it's going to be something less than that. That was just a straight line calculation to give a feel for how much water we might have in there. So again, there's about 12 weeks, 3 months of water left in the lake if we don't get any rain. And these rain events will impact that, and we'll catch a little bit more water. So the water being as low as it is in the lake increases the pH level. The NTUs is kind of a clearness of how clear the water is. It's usually at a 0.2. It's at 20 right now. So it's basically just a lot thicker water. It's a little bit harder for us to treat. But we're treating it, and it's working out pretty well. So the next, right now too, on our just an inside note, our the Xenon plant is down for maintenance, and so we're changing out the membranes. Just got a picture of that today. So if anybody wants some old membranes, look and see what they look like. Look like spaghetti straws, hollow spaghetti straws. We got a ton of them. They're everywhere. So we are working on that. That plant is offline. Next, we'll talk about ASR. We have about 28 million gallons of water stored in ASR. Currently, ASR2, one of the 2 wells that we pull out of it, is down. It had holes in the casing pipe or the discharge pipe as it came out, and the pipe actually separated. And so when the well driller or not driller, but the pump maintenance man was pulling it, and he dropped the pipe. And it dropped the pump and everything down the bottom of the hole. And about 2 days later, they got it out, and so it's all out. And they're assessing the cost for a new pump and the new casing pipe that we'll need to replace that. So hopefully we won't have to come back. Hopefully it won't be enough to justify a trip back to council, but it might. We'll see how that shakes out. The next source of water is groundwater. Our groundwater permit currently is for 1.1 billion gallons. We've used about 190 million gallons, and so that puts us at about 9% of our groundwater permit. So we're nowhere close to being high on our groundwater permit, and right now most of the wells are holding up pretty well. There's 2 of them that are down for maintenance. Meadowview is offline. It had the same problem. We did not drop, or that the pump the pump supplier did not drop that one. He was very lucky and got it out because it was holding on by the shaft. and so we got it out. But we are getting pricing from him to put some new discharge piping in that well as well. So we're hoping that we can combine those two and have enough parts to make one, but we'll see. We'll know more in about a week or so from him. 8th Street well is the well over there behind CarQuest. We're going to start testing it tomorrow. Is that right, Kyle? Tomorrow morning about 9 o'clock. So you have to run a 36-hour pump test to see what the well will pump, and then you get then you buy the right size pump after you know all that data. So we're going to start that tomorrow morning. So you may hear some questions about that there's water running over there kind of by G Street. And yes, we do know that. We'll put signs out there so everybody will see it. We didn't make a big splash about it. But it will dump down into the river. So. The next thing is our reuse water system. It is working very well. Knock on wood, we're not having any problems with it right now. The system's working good. We have a little problem with SCADA occasionally, but everything's running well out there. We have our ponds about half full, about 50 million gallons in there. We put about 2 million gallons a day in it from our wastewater treatment plant. And most of our customers are using all they can. I mean, there's not much left that we can pump to them. Our pumps run 24 hours a day out there, and we just circulate from one customer to the next to get them on, to make those contracts that we were talking about earlier. So that's the way that system was designed to operate. So it's operating very well and keeping most of our customers very happy with their reuse water. So that's kind of our water system in a nutshell. Just kind of give you a little update of where we are and some of the struggles we're having and some of the water quantities that we have left to pull from.
Getting reports of some people not cooperating with our stage 4. I guess the best thing for people to do is just call the city.
Yes, there's a number on our press release, and we'll continue. I can go to our website, and there's ways they can navigate that on how to get hold of us and what to do to make that happen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You'll have a good night.
All right, we are coming towards the end here to our appointments, council. So, 9A, Shelley, read our short intro. All right, Megan.
Right, well, you all saw the 7 applicants we got this year, so we're just bringing this so you all have the opportunity to look at their applications and hopefully appoint all of them to Kayla.
All right, council, any comments?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. I recently, one of the previous members who served on last year's Kayla reached out to me and said that she was interested, I'm trying to phrase what she told me, interested in the Kayla doing more. And it was funny because I had mentioned to her that's something that I had wanted to take a look at from the beginning when this program was taken from a youth board under the city council, formerly known as the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, reconstituted into the Kerrville Area Youth Council or Youth Committee, I think, and then once again reconstituted into the Kerrville Area Youth Leadership Academy. So we've gone under 3 structures of it. And I tend to agree with her. I served on the original one when it was first created under Mayor Pratt, then went to Mayor White, then went to Mayor Blackburn. And I served 3 years from the very beginning of that board until council decided to dissolve it and make it a Youth Leadership Academy. And I will say from my personal experience, I benefited a lot from the structure that it had then. And after talking with not only her, but some of the other individuals who have participated in this, they feel like they could do more. And being a leadership academy, they want to actually show their leadership skills in the community and in this program. I'd also like to note that we have, and nothing against these applicants, but we have only 7 applicants. Before, we would get about, I think, 14, 15 at minimum applicants for this program when it was a board before. And it was composed of about 12 to 14 with some like alternates or extras in case they wanted to step in. I really would highly encourage that we take a look at doing this for the next school year, not this time around, but the next school year. And take a look at what can we really do if we're really trying to provide some type of leadership program for our youth and young adults in high school. Let's really give them an avenue to do that, because it's been depleted so much from what it originally was. And it saddens me, being a part of the originally, to see where it's at now. I don't feel like, and honestly, they told me themselves, don't feel empowered in the community just through this. Whereas I know from previous experience of mine and talking with former alumni of it, we had a blast. And almost everything that they do in their program that's listed, that came from the board. Their schedule, the youth members of that board instigated every single one of these things. There's not one more that was added. And it just shows that we're not really giving them a voice. We're not allowing them to express their own ideas when they're construed to only following this schedule. So again, this is not anything against the staff or against the people who are applying. I would really like council to reconsider that for the next school year. That's all I have to say on that, but hopefully these individuals get a lot out of this. And so I would move to appoint Autumn, Elise, Peyton, Jonah, Una, Will, and Callie to the Kerrville Area Youth Leadership Academy.
Do we have a second?
Second.
From Joe, thank you. All in favor, raise your right hand. And it is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We had something like that back when I was, no.
I would recommend that they make suggestions to the group and as to things that they would like to do. So I would recommend that you go back and recommend to them that let their leaders know.
The leaders on who? I would tell them. Who should I tell them? Because they don't have meetings or anything, so they don't really meet to determine what they're gonna do. And before I was on council, when I came up to city council asking why y'all would do this, I specifically said, are you construing them to this schedule? Are you allowing them to add their own things to it? And before you were mayor, you were a council member, and you specifically told me, no, they're only gonna be allowed to do what's on this schedule because it's a leadership academy. Well, to me, that doesn't show leadership if they aren't allowed to exhibit it.
If the group does not feel like that they're getting exactly what they want, they have a voice and can they can talk to Megan and
The problem is they don't feel it. They don't feel empowered, and there's no meeting to set up. So I understand. I see what you're trying to do. Get them to speak up about it. But if they don't feel like they can and they have a voice to do it, I mean, we gotta help them in that way as the leaders of our community. So
okay,
we established it, or council did. Let's.
All right, thank
do
you.
Can I say something on that?
Sure.
Excuse me.
Their schedule really kind of mirrors what I'm looking at here, leadership for county. It really does. I was fortunate enough to be invited to be in the best class ever, which was number 36, with Chief McCall. But it really fits. And I understand what you're saying, Councilmember Garcia. But we did a little bit different things in our leadership because we have to do Easter Fest. But we're not going to be able to turn out a bunch of high school students to go out and run a fundraising committee where you're selling beer and raising money and barbecue and everything like that. It's just not going to happen.
I hope they don't sell it.
Exactly. That's part of, for the adults. But, if they want to do more, do more. But Drew, you were on my steering committee. And I mean, it really looks like I learned so much from that and seeing what they're going to learn. And I'm sure you learned it when you were in it. To me, there were the two greatest days that I had was Kerrville Day, basically, because I got to go see what an ASR was. I had no clue that we were the second city in the nation to have that. Got to start over at the poopy plant, and see where it starts and see where it ends. In education, the education day, that was probably the biggest day for me. So I commend y'all for doing this. I commend you for being part of it. And It's, I think it's awesome, so thank you.
And I'll just say, class 37, that was the best class ever. That's what I kind of try to model this over, because it was awesome to see what everybody did. So I'm definitely open to expanding it however the students feel they would benefit more. We definitely want them to get a great experience from it.
Actually, the class of 1990 was pretty darn good.
That's before they had numbers.
Yeah.
I thought it was 99.
Oh, here we go.
Competition. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we are ready for 9B, and,
Appointment of City of Federal Delegate to the 2023 Texas Municipal League Annual Conference Business Meeting.
and I think this is a mayor thing, so, I think that's all we need to do.
Do I need to make a motion?
I guess
I'll
so.
move that we appoint the mayor.
Second.
Mayor, are you not gonna allow for council to discuss it? I mean, it seemed like you just took it upon yourself
Well,
without.
it's always been done by the mayor, so.
It hasn't, because just a few years ago, I brought it up, and we hadn't been doing it before that, so.
You are welcome to go with me again.
Well, I was gonna say, I would like to put my name in the hat if council would be so inclined to consider. Last year, I recall when we went to the business meeting, Mayor, you actually sat beside me and asked me my opinion on every issue that came up, so I feel
I have my own opinion, but I ask your opinion also.
and I feel best prepared, to, to take that role, so.
Ready to make a motion?
I have a motion on the table.
I'd just like to make it known that I'd like to be considered.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? And Mr. Garcia is opposed. All right, thank you very much. And we are ready for 10A.
Yes, I have a motion to make if you.
Okay,
care to
this is
have it.
for the Charter Review Commission.
And appointments to the Kerrville Charter Review Commission, we do have one citizen speaker signed up.
Okay, all right, and that will be?
Peggy McKay.
Peggy McKay, Kerrville. A few meetings ago, someone on council lamented the fact that we were short on volunteers for a lot of the boards. And maybe that spurred on a few new people, few new faces. So I am here to thank all the people who applied, and particularly new faces, so we can have new faces, new ideas, new energy. And I hope that when you consider the appointments, that you put a lot of weight on new faces, and maybe that'll bring in additional volunteers for other boards. So it's really good to see it. And to those old standbys who were here to go on different boards and different committees, a big thank you if they did it to be sure that we had a full slate.
Thank you. All right, no more speakers.
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right,
I have a motion if you
we
care.
have a motion, all
Do we
right.
have discussion before we have the motion?
Let's do the motion and then let's discuss.
I've gone through the applicants, and I would like to make a motion that we appoint Danny Almond, Brenda Craig, Jason Gilbreth, Greg Richards, Michael Siegerman, Tim Summerlin, and Sandra Yarborough to the Charter Review Commission.
I second that.
Can you
A second?
say those names again? I think I missed the third one you said.
Danny Almond,
Uh-huh,
Brenda Craig,
uh-huh.
Jason Gilbreth,
Okay, perfect. That's the one.
Greg
Thank you.
Richards,
And I'm sorry, which ones?
sorry,
I have Almond, Craig, Gilbert.
Almond, Craig, Gilbreth, Richards, Siegerman, Summerlin, Yarborough.
Okay, and we have a second from Brenda. Any discussion?
Yes, thank you. I think we should have discussion before we have a motion, because I would like to tell everybody, I called every single person, talked with almost every single one of them, and unfortunately, they told me that nobody else had contacted them. It's important to note, Danny Allman said he withdrew his application. He sent an email to the city, Keisha, he said, to Miss Keisha, what's his last name? Miss Franchina. So he said he withdrew his application. Paul Devin, he told me he is no longer interested in serving on the committee. He thought it was more focused on like river trails and parks and rec stuff. And he said he doesn't want to be involved with the inner workings of he called it the political stuff of government. And so I told him, well, what the charter is it's the governing document for our city. And I showed him where a copy was, and he goes, yeah, that's not what I'm interested in. It's not what I understood it was. So he's another person who was not interested. So with that, I would like to open it up to actually having each council member nominate an individual. That way it shows a representation of the community, since that's what we are. And then with the remaining 2 members, since there are 7, I would ask that those 2 be appointed by a majority vote of council.
But it's a good idea, Roman, but we'd already decided that we were going to vote on them all together and not do the appointment.
We actually never made a motion or voted or anything, so it wasn't a decision we made. So I'm sorry, no, it wasn't. And with that, there's still an applicant that's in the motion that has withdrawn his application, so.
Well, until we have that withdrawal from the city clerk's office, city secretary's office, just because they told you, that's fine, but it needs to be official through them.
Well, again, I said they didn't just tell me, they sent an email to Ms. Franchina.
Well, but they have not received it, or have not seen it. So, we'll, as far as I'm concerned, council, do you agree that we continue with the names that we have until they have something official?
Yep.
So, that's what we will do with those names. We'll leave them on there.
What are you thinking?
I agree with the names that are on here, from the ones that I know personally.
Okay.
With what Councilmember Herring suggested.
All right. In that case, I'll make a motion to amend his motion to strike Danny Almond and insert Jerry Giampalo. Giampalo. It's Italian.
Do we have a second to that motion? We do not. So we will go back to the original motion.
I'd also like to say that 3 of the members who are being asked to be on this commission served on last time. And we have a lot of individuals who have submitted applications who are eager to contribute. And I think it'd be important that we, involve other individuals in this process.
And I also think it's important that we have some people who had the experience of last time, and they have that knowledge, and I think that will be very beneficial. So
I rely on our city staff and city attorney who will help them with that, so I trust them.
We have a motion and a second.
Is there another motion? Roman, do you have another motion? We have a motion and a second on the floor.
And mine already failed, right?
Yes.
Are you asking if I have another one?
If you had another amendment.
Okay, sure. So since you're offering, I'll move to, I'll make another motion, and it'll be a little bit different, so bear with me. It'll be to amend that one to strike Danny Almond and insert Jerry Giampalo, strike, where is it? Strike Mike Siegerman and insert Corey Fuquay, and strike Brenda Craig and insert Jim Keynes.
Do we have a second to that motion? I'm sorry, Roman, we do not have a second. So let's go with the motion that we have on the floor, and we have the names that were a part of that, and Everyone, please raise your hand if you are in favor of that motion. We have, and opposed? We have one opposition, and that is Mr. Garcia. All right, I too want to say thank you to all of these people. Hopefully, we will see some of them in some other positions. All right, let's move to 10B.
Appointments to the Main Street Advisory Board.
Okay, Megan, we have our names before us. Anything you would like to say, add to it? Okay.
Thank you for amending our qualifications because I do think that we had more interested individuals apply.
Okay. And Roman and I were the interview people for these. Roman, I am ready to make my recommendations.
Okay, you want to go ahead and read the names because you didn't tell me that beforehand.
Okay. I would like to recommend Teresa Craighead, Sarah Lewis, Travis Linder, and Bethany McKiska.
Is that a motion?
That can be a motion. Yes, it can.
Okay, I will second that.
All right.
It was Craighead, Lewis, McKeska, and who?
Linder.
Bednar.
No.
Travis.
How's George gonna take that?
George will be fine with it.
Okay, great.
Okay. Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, and it is unanimous. And Megan, I'm going to suggest, this is a suggestion, that we take the other 4 people, and I know that Roman found the same thing. In talking with these people, they have a wealth of experience from the past. They have been involved with all kinds of downtown things. And I would recommend that you take Eichner, McGee, Taylor, and Mullins, and bring them in somehow. I know they're not part of the regular committee, the board, but let's make sure if they're on a committee, however we can use them, let's include them because they have a wealth of information and a wealth of, they're interested and just a wealth of things to bring to the downtown committee.
Absolutely.
Committees.
Yes.
So, can we get a little clarification on like what that would mean?
Pardon?
What would that mean exactly to
Well,
you?
they're volunteers, and this group needs committee members, and they can work that out how they can work it out.
Okay.
They're not on the board. We didn't appoint them, but we have 4 people that need to be intricately involved.
We have 4 subcommittees that they'd be great volunteers.
Okay, there you go. So don't waste time calling them, and we'll let them know that that's going to happen.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you,
Good.
Megan.
No problem.
Good. All right, we're down to, the last one. Okay, appointments to the BBAA. That's what it is. All right. Mr. Garcia, Mr. Harris?
Go ahead. Okay. We have 4 applicants for 4 vacant positions. Yes, sorry. Yes, we have 3 regular member vacancies and 1 alternate vacancy. And so I would move at this time, Councilmember Harris and I talked about this before. We were only unable to get a hold of 1 individual, so with that I'll move to appoint the following as regular members. Daniel Lowry as a reappointment, Bob Rue as a reappointment, and Caleb Mizell as a new appointment, looks like. Yep. And so I'll make that in the form of a motion. If you have anything else you want to add, you're
No, sir,
certainly
we
welcome.
are on the same page, sir.
Okay, so we are not moving Eaker up to, he will stay an alternate. Okay. Okay. So Lowry, Mizell, and Rue.
That's correct.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? And it is unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, we have come to the end of our agenda. And is there anything that anyone needs to put on a future agenda?
No.
All right, at this time, we are adjourned at 8:19. Thank you all for coming. Have a good evening.